Thursday, every other Thursday. It's been a couple every other Thursdays, but I'm back with Billy Ferguson. Business, leadership, and lessons learned on the Jeff Robertson Show. Billy, what's going on,
Hey,
man? What you been doing?
same old, man. Just got through the holidays, got through the election. I think the last time we was on was right after the election, so
Yep.
all that's behind us now, and got the holidays behind us, and it's time to start out 2026 and try to do some great things.
Man,
Glad to be back.
I wanted to tell you right off the bat, and folks, for the folks that's tuning in, a very public safety centered audience that we'll have on here most times. That's going to be listening to this. Check out I did a live today, 2:30. And this guy's been trying to catch up since back before the holidays. But his name's Eric Holt, Erik Holt. Was a Texas guy, I think, and then ended up over to Colorado as a fire chief, and he kind of stumbled into some election fraud. I guess they have boards that run their fire departments out there, and he uncovered some what he thinks is election fraud and reported it, and basically lost his job and some other stuff. So really neat listening to him explain his journey. Um, so if you get time, I'll send you the link. But for the other folks that's out there, I told him, man, I was like, it's just such a neat story, and you hear about the election fraud or whatever, but he's got video evidence. He was able to capture video and then a little bit of audio to show that it actually did happen, and he got fired. He's suing for his job and some other stuff. He's just trying to get his story out there. And I always when I do those, like it's just one of those situations where you get to be he's telling you his story. It's your opinion, or you're up to you to how you want to receive it or what have you. But for the public safety community, we all have touched, seen folks that are wrongfully terminated or end up in a situation or what have you. And his was pretty unique, Billy. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Didn't shoot it to me. It must be, something in the water with elected bodies because just recently, there's been some issues here in Franklin County that was brought out on some. One of the board members got censured, and then it was over several different things and perceived things, and that's touched real close to home. And then and finding out, that this week there was a board member in Pennsylvania County that's been arrested at an Alta
Yeah.
Vista charged with shoplifting, and it's innocent until proven guilty, but they've got some pretty good video that's been broadcast from there. And also, there's another member of the Patrick County Board been censored for, I think, some freedom of speech things. And let's see, there's one other county. I think it was Stafford County had somebody that's went through some issues when they tried to call other members of the board into question on some tactics. So it must be something in the water going around.
Yeah.
Martinsville, the issues. I think everybody knows what's going on down in the city of Martinsville. I
No,
missed the
what's
news.
happening?
Well, they had that the city manager down there was terminated, and she's saying it was some lack of due process there, and the other side is saying that she was fired for just cause for some spending habits and stuff, and they're they paid for a forensic audit that was done by a company out in actually a company that I've done some work for out in Richmond, Sands Anderson. It's a law firm, and they have completed the audit, and now a couple of the board members of the city council, it would be requested that the state police come in and do look at the audit for criminal aspects of it. And something happened tonight, and I just caught the end of it, but I'm thinking maybe that the audit was released to the public tonight. I know that it hadn't been released, and when I came in tonight and flipped the TV on, they was interviewing some citizens out on the street in Martinsville. So I don't know if that's what was going on or not, but apparently it's been in the water, and people are drinking it, Kool-Aid or whatever it is, and it's going around. So it looks like that same gentleman is going through the same thing out in Colorado.
Yeah. I don't. It's you see that. I guess we've seen that a lot. Yeah, it's like fire, police chiefs, and managers of public organizations, and when they're terminated, it's like they get to have this big standing, and it's like they feel like they're not immune to being held to whatever that higher standard is. I don't know what words I'm looking for. Like in the private sector, somebody in a very top position gets fired. Like there's a documentation, human resource, everybody steps in. It's like, hey, today's going, we're giving you a severance or whatever that might look like. If it's gross, like you might just be, somebody might be freeing up your future, and it goes quietly. And I'm sure there's lawsuits, and I'm they're in the news or media, but it's always like the public sector is people plant that "you can't do this to me" flag. And when you see, I saw some other stuff that was out there where people had created some financial problems, and they were offboarded for that, but they called it wrongful termination. Like, wait a minute, you created this entire havoc off of an inefficient report or an inaccurate report or whatever, then you're shucking the accountability that comes with that. I just don't understand that sometimes, I guess.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think counter argument to that is that, and I can't speak for other localities. I'm sure it's different in different size localities with the amount of resources that's available. I'll give you an example. In my locality, when I was there was one HR person. There's two there now for over 500 employees. I'll give you an example. Chesterfield County, which is 300,000 population, they had 6 HR people, and each one of them specialized in a particular part of HR. So if you had a retirement question, you asked that retirement question. If you had a policy question, you ask a certain person about that. And I can speak for my county. I retired there on April 1st, 2024, and the policy manual had not been updated since 2009.
Yeah.
And so I think that, and then I think you going into like the HR being on you, I think, well, when you're in small town USA, everybody knows everybody, and you're working with that governing board, and your job is held in the hands of 7 people or 5 people, how many is others on that board. And so I think that adds a little bit more to it. And one thing that I see, and again, it's and I use myself as an example. So I work for the county. I'd been there, 27 years when I was promoted to director. So I came in on May 31st, and I was the chief of operations. Well, on June 1st, I was the chief. And there was no additional training. There was no mentorship. So it was just assumed that I knew everything that I was supposed to do as chief. And I guess the knee-jerk reaction to that is, well, you've been there 27 years. You should have knew everything. Well, you think you do till you're sitting in the seat. And there's things that came up. So I think I blame some of that blame is on the locality, not just, I think you see that out a lot. And I think it's more in smaller localities. I think that, it'd be kind of like you hiring me. I know you're in the private sector as a gym owner. It'd be kind of like you hiring me off the street and, telling me, hey, go over here to Richmond. I'm gonna open up a new gym. And by the way, you're the manager.
Yeah.
I've never run a gym before, but, so I think that it's lack of preparation or lack of planning on the government's part or on the employer's part. And I don't think it's their fault. I think that was recognized, but the funding wasn't there, and the powers that be would not give you the funding. And so I think just as counter argument to what you say, that brings a lot of that into play. I think you don't see as much of that in the private sector.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you just it's when we talked about some of those before, to where it seems like there's sometimes just can be a lack of accountability, and I understand they are they have their own things, but just standing on the outside and watching like some of the stuff is, and the other thing I think has changed, Billy, back in the day when someone got some scrutiny, like when you got a little mud coming your way and it didn't take as much mud, or when you kind of stepped on it, on a landmine from a public relations thing, like you would, like someone like, I'm going to resign. I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to, it's me being here is a distraction. It's keeping them from mission. They anchor in now and they're like, yep, prove it, dog. It's, you got to throw me out of here. There's no, we changed, it maybe evolved or whatever, but we don't, there's no, resign, kind of let the everything die down. And then we're talking about the day of the internet to where it's, where it's hard for things to go to bed now. I'm going to resign. I brought, hey, I brought shame to the department. I'm going to resign, or I was caught this or what have you. And then they fade out of public life, and then they slowly make their way back in. I've watched some folks that had that, exposure and went through something negative. I've seen them creeping back into, the limelight and as a personality here, whatever, just kind of making their way back into, to wherever. But now, folks, like there's no more. I'm not resigning, like the stuff in Minnesota. The governor's kind of right there. And he's like, I'm just not running again. I ain't resigning. Y'all going to throw me out of here.
Well, yeah,
they anchor in.
You dig your heels in, but a lot of that, you and I have been friends for a long time, and I won't name no names, but you'll certainly know who I'm talking about. Let's go back to the 1980s and 1990s, and if you came in with a complaint to the boss and the boss didn't like your complaint, he said lane company is always hiring. You can just go to lane company, go to work. Yep. And in today's world, and I'm not arguing whether this is right or wrong, but there's so many laws and the like that are there to protect the employee, but sometimes it's it's hard to terminate an employee that may need terminating. And you kind of correlate the NFL to it. The whole game is to tackle the guy with the ball, but now there's so many rules about, well, if you hit his head, we're gonna eject you from the game, and you can't hold him and you can't trip him, and how am I supposed to tackle him if I can't do any of that stuff like that? So it's the same way. I go out here and need to terminate an employee. I had another example of an employee that it done some stuff that I thought was a terminatable offense, and I went to my HR person, and they agreed with me that they thought it was a terminatable offense. Well, we met with the employee and discussed termination. We had to give them what was called a letter of intent. We had to give you a letter that we intend to take disciplinary action in so many days, and you had so many days to come back. Well, this guy walks in, a couple days after this letter of intent with a letter from like a counselor saying that he suffers PTSD, and that's why he's doing all this stuff. But then that just tied our hands. And where do you draw the line on that? I mean, I understand the PTSD, and I think it is real, and I think that you and I both have some of it there, but there comes or I think there's a fine line there on it. Or yes, you may have PTSD, and yes, it cost you to do what you did, but in that same token, if you have that issue, or you fit for duty to do the job, and I don't know how you get around that. And we never did resolve that problem. I'm retired. This guy's still working. So I just don't know how, and I don't know if it is an answer. I mean,
well, and I'm not, man, my heart goes out, right? Because I'm all right. Well, here's what I would tell you that I think where it probably all worked out, and this is the thing where sometimes it doesn't work out, where something where the employee just would have been compromised, maybe in an accident, or maybe in in some kind of negative interaction with the public, then that surfaces. Well, they know. And then the department ends up, that's, we never take action when everything's going smooth. We're never preventive enough. Like, remember, traffic light cams going through town, and several jurisdictions don't have that. So we're never proactive until something negative happens. And then we're like, we put a policy in place, or we make a rule, or we figure it out. But most, that's probably happens a lot. We just, it doesn't go to the next level.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I do a lot of instruction with Ferguson Safety Solutions. And part of that, I do that is policy development. And one of the things that I stress in that is exactly what you said, that every policy that your organization will come out with is written in blood. And what I mean by that is that you as an employer didn't just go home one night and go, I need to write a policy on X. Somebody done something that got killed, got hurt, got litigated, either in your organization or somewhere else, that caused that policy to be brought up. So it's just, you just shouldn't pull some policy out of the air and decide I'm going to create it. Something happened that caused that policy to be developed. And that's why that I use that phrase, that they're all written in blood. Something happens. And when you're out there looking at, but anyway, and then you can't. I think sometimes maybe you can over policy yourself. Now, I'm a proponent of creating policies, but you got to be careful that you don't back yourself into a corner. And that there's some people out there will try you every way to get around the policy. And I can give you an example of that. In my former employer, we had a policy that you cannot, anytime I think the way the policy is written, that if you put the vehicle into reverse, there was some extenuating circumstances, but basically if you put the vehicle into reverse, you had to have a spotter behind the vehicle.
Yeah.
And we had put those words in there. If you placed the vehicle into reverse, and we thought that tied up everything. So one day we had an employee that was observed back in a vehicle, and there was no spotter. So the supervisor with the department called him in and had a counseling session, was going to document it. And the employee says, well, I didn't violate any policy. And the supervisor says, well, you was backing up without a spotter. And the employee says, well, if you read the policy, it says to place the vehicle in reverse and back up. He said, I never put the vehicle in reverse. I put it in neutral. It was just rolling backwards. So,
that's me. That's the crap I'd pull on you, Billy.
Nothing to do. So, sometimes you had to really look at those policies, and somebody will still figure a way to split hairs and get out of it. But I don't know how we got in this conversation, but we're there, and it's good dialogue.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about Eric Holt and his situation, and it kind of mushroomed into the locals. Because we asked, Martinsville did get their results. I just put a little AI in here. They did get those results, and according to what I just read, that they're probably meeting now. I think that was the timeliness, was the report was out, and they had a meeting tonight, or they were holding a special meeting around this time to discuss the audit. And then you're correct on the Patrick County thing. I looked that up, but I don't. You mentioned Ferguson Safety Solutions, Billy, on the business segment of business leadership and lessons learned. What's been going on with Ferguson Safety Solutions?
Well, we've we have our ups and downs, and you have your busy times, and you have your slow times, and you have to punt and look at other avenues and do things. But right now we're ramping up. We just finished a program out at a company here in southern Franklin County that we have been doing work for several years for them, and we did our annual OSHA update for them back in December. So that's always a pleasure, and we've already booked this December to go back and renew. And I've also,
why is that important, Billy? why does a business need to have OSHA updates? Why
Well,
is that important?
most of your organizations of public employment, uh, you have to go by OSHA standards, and certain policies you have to have, and certain hoops you have to jump through based on what the activity of your business is. This business deals with solvents. And so with solvents, they have to have what's called a HAZSWAP or 1910-120 program. And that can be it can be anywhere from 40 to 24 hours, depending on what your job title is. If it's something that you are working with hazardous products every day, full time, then you have to have a 40-hour program and an 8-hour update once a year. If it's something where you occasionally working with a hazardous product, then you can get by with a 24-hour class, and you have to have an 8-hour update each year. And a lot of people don't realize stuff like that. Jeff, did you know if you employ over 10 folks, you have to have an emergency action plan? That's law. Lots of people don't know that until something goes wrong. And then somebody comes in and wants to know what your emergency action plan is, and let's see a copy of it. Now, with that being said, it's not a lot of really guidance on what's required to be in that plan. There's best practices, but there's no document that says here's what's got to be there. But you have to have
what should be in it, Billy? Just give us like a little.
I think it goes back to what we just said. It's the type of business you run. If you're running an attorney's office and you've got 10 attorneys working there, let's just take Gentry and Locke, for example. It has probably 100 attorneys. Their emergency action plan is going to look drastically different than if we're doing it for DuPont Chemical. So what some of the minimum stuff would be an emergency action plan is, well, let's just look at today's society. Let's look at where are our exit routes in our facility. Are they the best? Where are we exiting to outside? Where are our fire extinguishers located? How do you operate the fire extinguishers? What happens if we have a weather event? How do we evacuate? Do we stay in? It's different. It's different for what you do for a tornado versus what you do for an earthquake. Where are your do you have your personal protective equipment? Do you have that in there? What do you have? What happens if you have a hostage situation? What happens if you have you're running whatever office and you have an irate customer that comes there? How's that handled? What happens if the building catches on fire? How do we where do we evacuate to? Do we call 911? Do we attempt to put all that needs to be documented in a plan? And that's one of the things I do with Ferguson Safety Solutions is I help write those plans. That's one of the many things we do is help write those plans. And we'd be glad.
Where I come alongside with that part of it is I help craft the business continuity plan.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This has happened. This has happened. What does it do? So when you get into your stuff, it's a great conversation, Billy, because this is overlooked. If your business is dependent on the phones ringing, what are you going to do when the phone line gets cut? And don't let your telephone company say that just don't happen. It does. Been there. And then if you have a fire, if you have is there a fire in any setting will absolutely you could either throw your hands up or like I've been there. There's been different times, but just point being is all right. If these scenarios of, and it's just like if power goes off, something simple of what are you going to do when your power? Do you have a backup generator? Do you have backup batteries? There's a point in time we started on some battery stuff, and then we ended up having we deployed a generator. The team that we had, if the power went off, we were back up in about 4 minutes. Us having to crank a generator float now. I have folks now that have gas LP generators or gas generators that run off natural gas, and they automatically switch over. So electrical, and then phone, and then internet is making sure you have those contingency plans in place. So if you lose those stations, like a couple of the companies I've worked with on this, their phone system was all internet based. And I go, okay, well, this is great, but we need a hotspot. Just it's worth paying a few extra dollars a month on your cell bill to have a hotspot. And then we early on, and we were using desktop computers. We ended up phasing half of our desktops out in favor of laptops. So that way, when power went off, we laptopped right into a hotspot, and our phones did too. And it's like we never missed a beat, man. So those are things like coming alongside of what you're saying, the business continuity plan. That's
well, and Jeff,
some short-term retail solutions. Yeah, go ahead.
That loops right back in is, so if I'm developing an emergency action plan for, Jeff Robinson Logistics, there would be a chapter in there that would include having a development of a continuity plan. And that would be, and it would tell what needs to be contained in it. And then you would outsource that to somebody else to help develop that continuity plan. But you bring some great points up, and and again, it goes back to what your business is doing. If you had your business set up and you had generators, and you said we was back up and running in 4 minutes, well, that's commendable. But if I'm running an outpatient surgery center and I'm in there doing surgery, I ain't got 4 minutes to get back up.
Yeah,
it'd be down none. I can't be down 4 seconds. So you've got to have something in there in place that, and not only you have one redundancy, you got to have triple redundancy. What happens when you and I've been there, you got the generator out back and it's been out there for 5 years. And we ain't never used it except when we tested it on Friday. Well, today we need it, it won't start. Well, now we got to have that third redundancy there. So, that would be part of it. So let's develop this emergency action plan, and contained within that emergency action plan is a chapter on continuity of operations. If you're running, the local Wendy's, and I want my daily cup of coffee and my biscuit, as a customer, I really don't care about your power failure today. I want my cup of coffee and my biscuit, and you got a way to come up and offer that service, and all that is what's contained in the plan. So that's one of the many things that I do on that, and I also I do some work for an attorney or different attorneys as far as acting as an expert witness. So I'm working with an attorney group over in Roanoke right now, and I've got a meeting coming up next Thursday. I'm going to spend some time with them on a case prior to a deposition. Doing a deposition here in I think it's the 19th and 20th, I believe it is. And so I'm meeting with the attorney group before then to just go over basically understand the medical standpoint, of the medical view, to better educate the attorney. So they're doing a deposition. Somebody says, well, we had a cervical column backboard. They know what they're talking about. So I get paid to go in and do that. And then week after next, I'm going out to a longtime customer, been a 12, 13-year customer, out to Richmond area and do the HCA hospitals out there. I've done 3 hospitals for many years out there. Now this year is the first year we're doing 5 hospitals. So I'll be there the last week of this month, doing their 19, 10, 120, 24-hour program. And we'll cover a plethora of topics in there, from what is OSHA all the way up to workplace violence, to RCRA laws, which is hazardous waste disposal, equipment, and all. So this month is going to be a busy month for Ferguson Safety Solutions, and that's fantastic.
That's good, man. I got taking my Endodyne on the road, my little Endodyne leadership and all that mess. I used AI to create a song, and that's what it says. It says Jeff Robertson. You may have heard it on my social, like talk about AI and all that leadership mess. I made it used AI. My daughter, when I'm getting ready to go somewhere, she's like, "You going to talk about that leadership mess, Dad?" Um, I'll be down in South Carolina in a couple days, a couple weeks, maybe next week, week after next. I'm going down to South Carolina to work for a day, maybe 2 days, and then I got some other stuff, some other companies like just that have same type industries, some manufacturers, some stuff like you're covering, to where they're just working on some more leadership and team development and bringing up some young leaders, just spinning them up through some good training that I've delivered a couple times. So people are sharing that word from the companies that I've worked with. They're like, man, hire this guy. So I'm really grateful for that. And then I'm going to speak in Reno at the end of February. So those are kind of what my kind of my launching off, man. So I'm same type thing as that was. It's been really cool for that to come to life for me, and then I ended up trademarking that name and just worked through some other stuff, some firsts for me that I haven't done, that I just wanted to experience. I wanted to experience the trademarking process. I wanted to go through it, and I'm one of those knuckleheads. I used the AI to help guide me, but I kind of did it by myself to see if I could do it. And I'm waiting. There's like a year backlog on trademark, so I trademarked my name, and then I like the content. Endodyne, when you put it together, is power within. And so the whole thing is taking a common sense approach to help people discover, like you kind of got the answers, just up to me to help pull those out and show you what it looks like, and then teaching them how to make good decisions out of good thought versus knee jerk reactions, unless you have to knee jerk. We've both been in situations where you have to make a quick decision, but just man, I'm really super stoked, and man, even more grateful that some of that stuff's coming off the ground for us. So good job on your side, man. Hopefully we'll be able to come together and mesh
Yeah.
up on some of this. So I'm gonna get you to hand out some business cards for me, man. Sling out some business cards for me.
Yeah, we'll get them to me. And you left out one thing. I actually saw a flyer today that said, I want to say January 19th, I believe it was. Jeff Robinson coming to town, Franklin Center, to do a program on, I think it's Smith Mountain Lake Chamber of Commerce,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, chamber. Yeah. Yep,
Yeah,
I do
see that
those.
flyer, I think so.
Yep, I
So,
do those through the. They have the SBDC do those. So I got um, I very rarely speak about the SBDC work because it's government. It's not supposed to conflict with my business. But man, that you talk about keeping your cup full, that's a fun it's a fun time working with them. And then, like you said, it gives me the opportunity to those will be teaching AI. So if you're Franklin Business, you got an opportunity. AI is kind of scary for a lot of people, Billy. There's some folks that are really progressing with it. Um, so I like getting in the rooms, and what I do with those AI classes is I kind of joke with everybody when I get there. I make that class up about, it's generally about this time the night before, and I'll just go with kind of whatever's buzzing in the world, and then I'll just outline my because I'm speaking for about 45 minutes to an hour, but I like to get what's fresh because AI is moving so fast, dude, that if I just had a presentation I gave all the time, it's outdated. So I wait until kind of time of within a few hours of delivering to give them the absolute latest and up to date information that I can on what's buzzing in the world. So last time I did some stuff on, now you used to for now a lot of folks are going to their Chat GPT or their learn language models to search the internet, like you're asking Alexa even. And so there's things you can do on your website. So I really taught that. It's called generative engine optimization. So there's things you can do on your website just to make AI help find you better. So I taught that the last time, and but I absolutely enjoy that, dude. Thank you for pointing that out.
I think some people are scared because they don't really understand what AI is. They think it's, I think some people think it's making human brains out of metal, and we're gonna have robots running up and down the street, and we don't do that. But I had something I wanted, something that come up the other day, and I wanted to reflect back to when we first started doing these things. You and I was having some private conversations. So this came up over New Year's Day, and it's supposed to be a Snoopy cartoon. I'll send it to you later. And it says 7 things to quit in 2026. Number one, pleasing everyone. Number two, fear of change. Number three, holding on to the past. Number four, talking yourself down. Number five, overthinking. Number six, hiding your true self. And number seven, doubting your true worth. So that goes back to what
Yeah.
we talked about, I think, early on about, that everybody has a special talent, and what you think is just everyday things. Other people pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to hear
Yep.
you explain that. So I thought that was really unique when I saw that right there, and just wanted to bring that up to you tonight and let you know you was spot on.
Yeah.
Talked about that a while back.
Dude, that's just we overlook those things. The one that probably is devaluing yourself. And I spoke a lot on that within my public safety podcasting that I do, and I always because I know how I was with that. It's like you do dangerous things for not a lot of pay. And when you do dangerous things for a lot of pay, when you go to do simple things for a whole lot more pay, because that's what goes on in the private world, it doesn't compute for a lot of people. And that's us as public safety professionals is we don't mind. We strap, you have a point in time when I was, strapped up in a uniform, proud to make $35,000 a year. And so you get used to doing dangerous stuff for a little bit of pay, and that's what you sign up for, and we all understand that. But when you go to move, is making sure that you understand your self worth and you get right with that, because it can. Because like with me, is I just didn't. I had a negative relationship with money and all sorts of things because I didn't like I was there for the adventure, or I was there for money. Just was never a motivator for a public safety person because we're used to we enjoy the job and the things the job brings. Money's a secondary benefit for a lot of folks. Till you have family and kids, and then it becomes a different thing. And but I think that's the thing I would just really echo there is make self worth a big deal, and a lot of people struggle with that. And if you're not careful, someone else, the thing I made a metal sign, and I put it in an office that I get to go to. So I'll share it, but it's a metal sign. It's a little bit heavy, but I wanted it to make a memorable moment. So if you don't pursue your own goals, someone will use you to get theirs.
Right.
And that comes along with that self-worth conversation and understanding like in public safety professionals, we're trained, we do a lot of communications. You do, you spend time in negotiations that you don't realize. And then you just know how to manage task and stress and different things. So just understanding like in those sometimes you land in the right spot. That's a 6-figure job. That's a 6.5-figure job, or could be a business that you start that is bringing in, a significant amount of money that a lot of folks aren't used to, just because. But that's the one that I always like to go down the rabbit hole a little bit, dude. Just reminding people of that.
Oh yeah, you are, and it's, the opportunity for financial gain and monetary gain is really there, and it's kind of scary at first. What you said, I go out and do a program, spend 3 days doing a program, and make more money than I made a month at my regular job.
Yeah.
So it's out there. But you have to stay on top of things. So
Yeah. No. What was the read those one more time?
Okay, let me get them back up here. I'll send you this. It was 7 things to quit in 2026. 1, pleasing everyone. 2, fear of change. 3, holding on to the past. 4, talking yourself down. 5, overthinking. 6, hiding your true self. And 7, doubting your worth.
That forgetting the past, several when I was doing Second Chance podcast with Jeff Robertson, a lot of the folks that would end up on my show, we would have that conversation about, hey, they've been struggling. There's a lot, man. Me doing that, Billy, gave me a different outlook on just Jeff. And man, I really realized what a freaking purpose I have, and all those little things just part of the freaking overall plan, and really put a lot of things in perspective for me. And I just need to talk to like-minded individuals and really see through that. And part of it helped me discover, like we always say, hey man, we need to put the past in the past. You need to forgive yourself. And I use the example in a wreck I worked years ago where the tow truck hit the mashed car under the school bus, 220 South.
Mhm, mhm. I was there.
Um, yeah, like you all, I was there first. Like you guys, now Richard Law was there first, and then I got there second. But you guys, and there was another volunteer that was with me you guys were late. I remember Jimmy Amos being with me, and there's a couple of us like, but you guys, like, I was there, and I was trying to manage all that, and I just that call always was with me, and just because it was overwhelming, Billy, like it was just like there's a school bus, there's kids there, there's this, and it's just there was a lot of chaos, and so I was telling someone about it, and I was like, it's a great example of forgiving yourself. As you go back, you kind of think about, hey, could I do this a little different on that call? And I said, I'm, oh crap, man, I'm coming up on almost 20 years being removed from public safety. Yes, 7, yeah, I mean, I'm within a few years, I was 7, yep. Um, and some of those calls still, it was just like you ponder it or whatever. And I don't have, I share it with the wife, but I don't have the station or the network to really, it was something I don't get to teach in a lot of the public safety settings. So it's easier for me to talk my way through a deload than it is for me to express it in my brain. And, but I found this thing called the Ho'oponopono prayer. It's an old Hawaiian prayer, man. And you just walk through, and I listened to a guy explain it. And he was like, just go back to that moment and kind of walk with yourself and just forgive yourself. But there's a way that you say it. It's like, I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So I'm missing a word there. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And you're saying that to yourself. But I just walked along with myself there, getting out of my car, Dukes. I remember, like, I had to drive down the wrong lanes. I had to drive down the opposite lanes because traffic was backed up. Because you remember the nature of the accident,
Oh,
like
yeah,
traffic's backed
absolutely.
up on the southbound side. So I had to jump. They had told me, like, hey, so I jumped and they blocked traffic, and I came up, and then there was your scene, and I just went back and played that, and in my head, Billy, when I was working through kind of this exercise of forgiving myself, was I did like a it's like Jeff now was kind of held the door for Jeff then to get out of his police car. And I was like, all right, bud, come here. You're getting ready to do some crazy stuff. It's going to be all right. Everything's going to work out the way that it's intended to work out, and you're going to do your best today. And helps on the way. Just just remember, man, you're a whole lot smarter now than you were then, and so don't discount that. And man, I forgive you for what else is going to go on today. And I just talked to myself through walking through, because I remember very vividly where all my steps were that day. And I just kind of walked with myself, and I just kept, I kind of repeated, like, hey man, when I got down to the little girl part, I was like, hey, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And and you want to talk about turning some corners with when you say putting the past in the past. Um, I got other moments, Billy, where I have fell extremely short and carried a little bit of embarrassment and just reflection on that for way too long. That and just kind of deploying that and walking in a similar mentality. So I tell you all that to tell you this is, and for the folks that are out there, is if you're struggling on putting that past in the past, give that a try. And the other thing I did, Billy, was I'll tell you this story at a different time because I got something I want to ask you. Is I found some old picture albums of me as a young kid, and there was some just when there was a lot going on in that young kid's life, and kind of set, and I had to do something similar of just that. And man, you want to talk about really turning some corners in my mental health, and then I got a little bit evangelical. That's why I'm telling you the story now because I'm like, damn, if it worked for me, hopefully it'll work for a lot of other people. So just anyway, if you ever hear anybody struggle with that, it's a good episode to share with them,
Oh,
folks.
absolutely.
Absolutely a game changer for me, Billy. If you struggle with it, anything that you're having a hard time, whatever, just try that little trick and walk through it. If you need guidance with it, I recorded a podcast separately where I just kind of walk with somebody through it, and then I've got some other ones that work for me that I can send you or anyone that's out there. Just post in the comments or what have you, and I'll connect you with the stuff that I've used. But what I just said is basically it.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. And I think we all carry some go back to the PTSD. I'm not sure that's what it is, but you know, you can't do the work we did and see the things we did, and you know, you can't unsee it. I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
Uh, I can tell
They
you
call
that.
it a moral injury, Billy.
Yeah, you're right.
You'll hear some professionals say the kind of the prelude to PTSD is moral injury.
So I think that it sticks with us. So anyway, good conversation. Good
Yeah.
conversation, man.
Tell me, all right, so folks, just so you know, back here, we're on the anniversary of a New Orleans um, shooting, and then we had a couple other updates that Billy had gathered, did some work on, and so we wanted to do a little leadership lessons learned. Kind of that's where we are probably now, Billy. Man, old Billy called me the other day, excited. He was going to share this with us. So, Billy, update us on the latest, on your latest news on what you've discovered.
Oh, absolutely. So let's go back a little bit before. I'm trying to bring some up here. Let's go back a little bit before New Orleans. Let's go back to the California fires. And ironically, that was a couple months before the New Orleans thing. But in 2023, I had an opportunity to be in the area where those fires were in Altadena, California, and different Palisades, and I spent some time in Arcadia, California, and all this was around where those fires were at. And I think if you recall last year, we talked about where the problem points were, lack of water, lack of response, maybe some lack of maintenance in those areas. There's lots of California laws that you have, but let's talk about where we're at today and where you may not hear it in mainstream media. I see Governor Newsom doing a talk, matter of fact, yesterday, how that how quickly that area was back on its feet, and he was so proud of Californians to do what they do. But let's look at let's look at a little data here that I've got. So, the Pacific Palisades fire, which was a year ago, 74% of those folks still do not have homes in temporary housing. The Altadena, 65% of those people that were displaced are still without shelter. They're staying, rented places, whatever. They've not been able to rebuild their homes back. 48% of those folks depleted a significant amount of their savings. And 43% have taken on significant debt. And one of the things that really surprised me is most of those homes out there, Jeff, are not homes that you and I live in. Those are multi-million-dollar homes that, folks were fortunate enough to be able to afford. So we know they had insurance. And one of the things that I learned that one of the insurance companies that were having the least amount of paid out claims was State Farm. They had paid out less claims than any other insurance company there. And the one that had paid out the most claims was USA, which if you're not familiar with is a government insurance. And I'd like to tell you, I know you look at you explore stuff a lot on the computer. So I want you while you're there to bring up, just Google Department of Angels. And when you got some time, read through that. And it's a California-based group of folks that were affected by those fires. And this group has got together and they're helping their neighborhood rebuild. And it's a really interesting thing to go through. And that is actually managed by one lady. And she has groups of folks that come in, but one individual that was affected with that fire and still doesn't have a home has put this together. I think you'll find it interesting. But some of the fallout to that was the fire chief lost their job. And if you remember, they had and this kind of goes to the lessons learned part of what we discussed, is that if you remember, they had a lack of water supply, and they found out one of the reservoirs was dry. And now they've also they got that reservoir a couple months after, got that reservoir back up and working. But lo and behold, a year later, that reservoir has been taken out of service. A couple other things that they talked about was at Los Angeles Fire Department had actually done some pre-planning for an incident like that in that particular neighborhood. And their pre-plan said it, they needed to pre-stage 44 pieces of apparatus in that area during fire season and when there was significant fire breaks out. That's what their plan said. 44 pieces of fire equipment. They had 3 staged there. And another thing that you will understand is that they did not have the proper equipment, maybe the proper training there was plenty of water. But most again, we talk about these multi-million-dollar houses. But they didn't know how to draft water out of a static source. They didn't know how to pull it from a hydrant or out of a fire truck. Like you and I in a rural area, we found some water. We can get that water from A to point B. They didn't know how to do that. They didn't know how to take suction unit and put it in and crank suction. They didn't know how to do that. And I guess I'm going to get it a little bit. And I guess when I was in that world, I used to talk about why, I'm in my area. Why do I need to know how to fight a fire in a 70-story building? I ain't never going to have a 70-story building in my locality. I'm sure that they were thinking that, well, why am I ever going to need to drive water? I'm never going to have. I'm always going to have fire hydrants. I'm always going to have. But that's the time they didn't. So that's just some things that that's just still out there and still haven't been corrected. So I think that both California and I'll segue into New Orleans. That that was on New Year's Eve where they drove down the Bourbon Street there and killed some folks and injured several more. But this year, at the same event. Now, I'm trying not to be critical of another locality because there may be things that they have put in place, especially from a standpoint I don't know about. But as far as what was visible, that you could see, it didn't look like a whole lot of changes had been made. It's kind of like, okay, it happened, it'll never happen again. So we're failing at lessons learned, or we're not acting on the lessons learned. Maybe we learned a lesson, we just didn't act on the mitigation to keep it from occurring in the future. So just some things that I wanted to bring up as food for thought tonight. Um, and we're always quick to have that knee jerk reaction on all these things. Any kind of you kind of drop back and get a little complacent. I was just thinking this morning about some recent changes with the FAA. I know you and I both travel a lot by plane, and after 2001, you have to take your shoes off and take your belt off and do all this stuff, and now you don't do that anymore. They just stopped it a couple months ago. They're looking at doing other things. So, you know, I'm afraid we're getting a little complacent, and yeah, it was an inconvenience. And yeah, I didn't really like to do it, but I've been doing it for 25 years. So let's just keep doing it. But now they want to use it back.
Yeah.
Does that mean that, before long we have a shoe bomber on the plane or something to that effect? I think that, sometimes those lessons don't stay with us, so we get back to the place.
I think they've done a better job of rolling out some higher technology just for detection too, so it's less invasive for us. I did TSA pre just because I'm not a well, I fly enough to where it makes sense for me to do it than having to be in the lines and all those things. I got other friends that's done clear. I'm not ready to do clear because that's your
Mhm. You can do global
picture
entry
of
and
your retina
yeah.
basically. But yeah. Here's what I was going to tell you is before they made these changes, when I was I was coming out of an airport, not our own, and the guy was like, I was in the TSA pre-line. He's like, "Yep, belts and shoes," and I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." And he's like, "Yeah, well," I'm like, "No." And the guy in front of me, he's down, and I was like, "You TSA pre or you in the wrong line?" He's, "I'm TSA pre." I'm like, "The reason why we gave up fingerprints is so you don't have to take your shoes off."
Mhm.
So they haven't changed anything. This guy's just taking his job a little too seriously.
Mhm.
We're going to see how this plays out. I walked through the line. I'm not being cocky about it, but I'm just saying, like, they were sometimes as they want you to do more beyond what is required because they're taking their job a little serious that day, whatever it might be. But I was like, no, man, that's just why I did this part. So I've seen it
Both
on the
ways.
opposite side, and then I think sometimes your issue I run into with them is they a lot of government agencies really they forget that they're in the customer service space. Like, so I've seen them. Some of that stuff is a little over the top sometimes. I just don't. I don't think the TSA person should be yelling at me because I'm just trying to make my way through a line.
Yeah,
Um,
but customer service lacks in
and
most
you're right. I just
industries.
that was yeah, yeah, yeah. We're just gonna do. Well, I was going to teach customer service. I had like a 6 hour, I think it was 4 hour class I put together, and the signups were next to nothing. And I was like, there's no way that folks don't that they like this is a huge area um, that we need for development. I do think, Billy, that um, it goes back to kind of what we talked about on the election thing is where when those used to be like when there was something that was or a chief or whatever or somebody within the agency had left the door left the loose end that created some negative friction. The other person would be moved or demoted or what, like you said, the fire chief of the Palisades, like they um offboarded her, but sometimes they just plant roots and those folks remain, or they get you know they get another opportunity inside of the same to create the same situation sometimes. And I always say, like, man, maybe it's better, even for me, because the other thing I didn't, when you look at it too, Billy, is police officers and in public safety too, is like when crap really gets bad, the county, or unless it's super on the other side, there's like you have to hire your own attorney.
Oh, absolutely.
Like some of the stuff I went through was when it gets down to nuts and bolts and you're being scrutinized, like the county doesn't appoint you an attorney. There's no representation for that individual. That comes out of your pocket, and
Yeah, we
you're
would.
going to have to fund that. So that's why I always say, like, even for me, maybe sometimes I would move me from here don't so I don't have the opportunity for the lawsuit to, or the negative scrutiny to come in, right? It's about protecting the individual sometimes too. I think it's why we should move some folks around. I ain't saying fire everybody, but at least move them around.
Yeah, and you're, I used to have to tell our folks a lot when we were talking about stuff that a lot of, each county has a county attorney, whether it be employed or contract. And I used to have folks that would say, well, if this happened, we got the county attorney to back up. I'm like, they're here to protect the county. They're not here to protect you. They're a county attorney,
Protect the
not
county.
your
Yeah.
attorney. And I used to have to, I had a gentleman that wrecked a fire truck one day, hit a car in the back, knocked him over in a river, and minor injuries, but you know how that goes. And this guy that was driving, how to get in contact with the attorney, and I'm like, dude, that ain't gonna happen. The county attorney's here. That ain't gonna happen. If this individual sues the county of Franklin, that attorney's will defend the county of Franklin. But if that family sues Billy Ferguson, that attorney will know Billy Ferguson. I mean, he's got to hire his own attorney. And people do not understand that. And I'm a firm believer when you're in a situation like that, win or lose, it's going to cost you a ton of money because you don't have to pay that attorney away. Now, if you win, you can certainly go back and get some of your money, but you got to front that money. You can certainly go back and get some of your money, but you got to front that money.
Yep. Billy, we're right on top of that hour, man. We said it's going to keep it about 60 minutes for the folks at home and tuning in. Man, great conversation. I'm glad we got to catch up. I got some other things I want to cover. So hopefully 2 weeks, folks, me and Billy will be back on in just to kind of keep some catch up. I got some things that I wanted to tell you folks from just my time working in law enforcement, some things that was in national news involving the Drug Enforcement Administration, and I'm just going to give you some insight on what working there was like from my perspective, and then just kind of unpack their recent media there. So I would make sure, as far as I know, I don't have any conflicts. If we do, I'll let you know, Billy. But that's me. If you need Jeff Robertson, man, head over to jeffreyrobertson.com. It's my name. There's a little link there where you can contact me and schedule with me, and let's work on your leadership or AI or marketing, whatever we can do whatever I can do to help you grow. I'm spending more time in leadership and AI probably in my business than I am in the marketing world. But so it's super fun. But Billy, tell us about Ferguson Safety Solutions and wrap us up, man. We'll close with you.
All right. Appreciate it, Jeff. Good conversation. I enjoyed it tonight. We don't need to wait as long as we did before. And I was thinking I was going to be out of town in 2 weeks, but I won't be. I'll be out of town in 3 weeks. So 2 weeks will work great. Ferguson Safety Solutions. You can get me at wferguson62@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Facebook at William Ferguson, or you can get a hold of Jeff, and Jeff can hook you up with my phone numbers and all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking to have any questions as far as emergency management and developing emergency action plans, any OSHA, first aid needs, reach out to us. And we'll be glad to help you out all we can. And, I think we can both learn something from each other, and I really appreciate the thousands of folks that tune in every week or every 2 weeks to hear us. And thank you, Jeff, for letting me be here a couple times a month to chat about public safety and business leadership and lessons learned. still working on this,
business
dog
leadership.
pony show to take on the road about media.
Working on this,
Finish with that. But,
show
Jeff,
about media.
again, I appreciate it. Learned a lot. Had a lot of folks watching tonight, and I hope they learned something tonight.
Yeah, maybe